The Witcher 3 is soon to be 10 years old, but be that as it may, this game just never stops giving. In fact, despite having a bunch of beautiful armors, some of which admittedly kind of make you look fat, it also generously provided us with some beautifully stunning and creative pieces of gear that any playthrough would be amiss without, namely the legendary Witcher gear. And in this video, we'll be ranking each piece of chest armor in the entire game from worst to best. And if that sounds like something you'll enjoy, I hope you'll pierce that like button with your silver sword and slash the subscribe button with your steel, because right now, the wind's howling. And of course, if there are any armors I have missed in this video, do let me know in the comments. The game houses so many gambesons and plate armors found as random loot, although many are of course near duplicates of others, so in terms of general looks, I do believe all the armors are indeed gathered on this list. At number 46, and the title of worst armor in the game, we have the Kaedweni Gambeson, which appears light and nimble, I suppose. Other than that, I guess it's at least black and white in color, which does give it a certain aura. But perhaps its greatest weakness, which is the case for many upcoming Gambesons by the way, is its general shape around the midriff, which doesn't do Geralt any favors, let's just put it that way. It's certainly not the only armor that does so, but it's definitely the ugliest. At number 45, I give you the Bounty Hunter's Gambeson. This is one I always found to be ugly at best, and just downright insulting to the witch's figure at worst. Looking downright tattered and worn, I suppose its name checks out at least. Its black and yellow colors are alright and gives it a bit more zest than the former, but it's all ultimately undone by its air of low protection and muffin top-like persona, seeing as it does add a big old belly to our dear Geralt. Number 44 is Sheodal's armor. Being not particularly flattering, it still manages to look better than the former two thanks to its red coloring scheme and general tailoring. Alas, it's extremely tattered and needs more than just a quick fix to look patched up. It's not really more than a curiosity at best because of it, although seeing as Geralt's hair is white and the armor is red, it might be of use when Skellig celebrates Christmas, or the winter solstice, or whatever they do up there. I have to say that up until now, I didn't really realize I needed Santa Geralt in my life, but you know, toss a wish for a Santa, O viewers of plenty, or in this case, a like. The Cidarian Gambeson definitely doesn't look like much, but I do find that it has a certain charm to it. It fits rather snug on Geralt, perhaps thanks to the pattern and color scheme, which gives it a more sophisticated look than other armors of similar shape. If it weren't so tattered, it would have looked a lot better, but its dark green mane and dark purple thick stripes saves its spot as number 33, which isn't too much to brag about, I guess. At number 42, the Angrenian Curse stands heads and shoulders above the current competition. While its Gambeson is of the same shape as Sheodal's armor, its green and trimmed red look gives it a slightly more sophisticated one. Although I do suppose one could argue we've also stuck to the Christmassy themed color scheme here. But moreover and more important, the breastplate is an extremely welcome addition to round out the look, and so is the leather belt that helps keep the sword hanging around Geralt's back. A decent look, it's still fairly anonymous, and in keeping with the former entries, we're still very much in tattered and in need of patching territory. At number 41, I think you know where this is going now. The Gambeson shape is the same, slightly tattered, but the color scheme is a lot more sophisticated and earthy now, a bit more stylish if I do say so myself. The grey breastplate has been replaced with an outer garment protecting it, which has a decently fine pattern dotting it. For what it is, I think it looks quite fine actually, if not a bit rough, and I guess I'll say it, Novigrad Poor District-esque. At number 40, the Toussaint Collar Guardsman armor is all of a sudden completely different from what we've seen thus far. I like that it tries to be different, and we do have a hint of a Renaissance style outfit here, but I don't like the white and light blue color scheme, and it feels like Geralt is missing some padding or protection in the neck area. Its shape does give me something of a Dark Souls Smough feel, but its unique design does lend it a certain elevation and good vibe style points. Number 38 on this list, and we're looking at the Ard Skellig Aketon. Is that how you say it? Aketon? Aketon? Whatever. A Gambeson style armor that finally looks quite awesome actually. Its Nordic Skellig design gives it a much more unique and distinct look than what we've seen thus far, with some cool patterns and nice use of knots. However, the color scheme doesn't really mesh with me, as I find that it clashes with itself a bit too much, and even though it's fairly special, it just isn't cool enough to compete with what comes further up on this list. Number 38, and our very first truly knightly armor on this list is one from the Toussaint tournament, and it's Geralt's very own, Sir Geralt of Rivia's armor. I do like that this cuirass looks quite realistically medieval in its checkered pattern and coat of arms, but then we have to consider the fact that I'm just not a big fan of checkered patterns, especially because of the white and red color scheme, which isn't exactly epic looking. In fact, it makes Geralt look a bit too much of a regular tourney participant for my tastes, and well, tourneys are fun, but this bright white color is going to get me spotted in the middle of the night. At number 37, the Witch Hunter's armor stands quite apart from the rest with its very muted brown pinkish color scheme and high collar. I do like its long coat, which does move nicely in the wind, and the coat of arms on the chest is a nice touch too. However, I'm not a big fan of these spiked upper arm guards, and because we lack proper pauldrons, I think the armor looks a bit unfinished or bottom heavy if you will, which is why it fails to reach a higher spot on this list. At number 36, and we've more or less put the lamest stuff behind us now, up next is the Offieri tunic. Wildly unique with only one other similar armor in the game, the Offieri tunic is beautiful with its green and gold color scheme. I love how long the lower coat is, and the sharp upward shoulder parts gives it a very mystical look. There's no arguing against this armor's beauty, but the largely naked arms and low visual armor value combined with a certain eccentric finish does give the vibe of a sorcerer, not a witcher. As such, I wouldn't really wear this in combat or anywhere really, but its beauty does speak for itself. At number 35, we're going big name with the Grandmaster legendary Forgotten Wolven armor. Having been migrated from the Netflix Witcher show, the Forgotten Wolven armor does kind of stick out like a sore thumb in the game, its black leathery shine and scale-like pauldrons not doing much to blend in. There's also a problem here where I find that we're missing a good set of fitting greaves, and perhaps even a lower coat like in the Offieri tunic. That being said, the black finish and chesty, six-packy nature does lend it a certain sense of cool, and there's no denying that if you're hunting at night or role-playing as a Dark Knight of sorts, this is a pretty cool armor when all is said and done. At least it's better than that veiny ballsack armor, which I'm not touching on this list at all. At number 34 awaits the Verdance Archer Gambeson, which at first look might not look like much, but I do maintain it deserves this spot for a reason, that reason being its relatively unique but nicely colored style. A mix of light blue and a darker shade of red means the colors pop in the right lighting, and the many leather belts add a sense of identity to the outfit. Meant for archers, it is intended to not be too heavy or cumbersome, and I think that's something that could go for a Witcher too, at least at certain times. The Kaedweni cuirass stands relatively tall at number 33. Not as unique as the Offieri tunic, nor as show-offy as the Forgotten Wolven armor, the Kaedweni cuirass nevertheless gives off a certain down-to-earth charm that I really like. I think the orange-brown color gives it a warm feel, and the breastplate gives it a semblance of protection, which in battle is welcome. I also value it for its ability to arguably fit in kind of no matter where you find yourself, whether that's in Velen, Novigrad, or Toussaint. Standing out at number 32 is the Order of the Flaming Rose armor, one very much based on the color red. It looks a lot more professional than much of what we've seen so far and certainly more fit for combat, all of which validates its spot. But personally, I'm kind of turned off by the enormous amount of red leather, and I'm not that big of a fan of all the studs either. The front-facing coat of arms is very cool, and so is the chainmail below the outer coat, but even so, it could have looked a lot better, all things considered. Contrary to the Toussaint Color Guardsman's armor, the Toussaint Ducal Guardsman's armor actually looks quite great, which is why it's finding itself on spot number 31. There's just something about this dark brown coupled with the white stripes that really gives this piece a realistic look, one that fits so well in both Toussaint and Novigrad. We're still lacking protection in the neck area here, but I just find it so much more charming than before, and since we still have the breastplate, we are still in tip-top fighting shape here. It's just a good vibe if you know what I mean. At number 30, we have the ornate Hindarsfjall heavy armor, a Skellig special and almost beautifully primitive. I love the black, red, and brown color scheme with white dots, I love the insane amount of belts, and the armor generally looks very strong and tough. However, it does come across as a bit too bulky for a Witcher, and generally looks like it's made for someone else, like an elite battlefield soldier and not a twirling white wolf with two swords on its back and a bad witch waiting back home. And the fact that it feels a bit out of place for Geralt and that it lacks that extra oomph is why it's not higher on the list. At number 29, we have Shirt. Now hold up, you might say, and ask if I've gone crazy. But you know, the shirt is entirely unique in this game. It stands out as almost elegant yet effortless. It accentuates Geralt's upper body and makes him look cool without trying. It's a piece of quote-unquote armor that in terms of defense obviously is akin to no armor at all, and yet we must give it props for being as cool as it is. Number 28 Skellig Gambesson is identical to the Verdance Archer Gambesson in shape, but there's something about its green and almost camouflagey look that resonates with me even more. It looks so worn and realistic because of it, but still something that provides a light-of-foot person a modicum of both protection and a woodsman's riz. The Speakerog Akaton at number 27 is very similar to the Art Skellig Akaton, but its colors are leagues better. The light brown on the lower skirted section comes across as earthy and something you'd wear in the woods, while the dark mane section with the white arms gives it a cooler overall look, but everything blends together really well. The red knots remain from the Art Skellig Akaton, but they make more sense here I find, still standing out but now in a more interesting way. It does lose some of that Nordic feel for sure, but I think overall it's a major upgrade and one that blends in much easier outside of Skellig as well. Another Gambesson, but certainly one of the most classy ones, the Freya's Warrior Armor at number 26 is finally one that looks genuinely high class and like it's meant to be worn. Its beautiful black main color is complemented by the orange trim on the edges, and its thick fabric gives it all a warm, protective feel. I also very much like the brown leather belts once again and the more patterned red and black undershirt peeking out at the bottom. The Freya's Warrior Armor does not at all stand out much, but its beauty lies in its subtle old money feel, which is why it landed right here. At number 25, the Toussaint Armor is one of our only true knightly armors thus far, but this is when these bad boys will keep on coming. However, the reason why it's one of the lowest rated among them is because it feels a bit out of place. The golden armor is nice, but almost borders on the silly, especially when coupled with the sharp and exaggerated features of both the breastplate, which resembles an open clam almost, or the pauldrons, which curve upwards in a sharp movement. I'm also not a big fan of the Gambesson underneath, which has the distinct pattern and color of a grandma's window curtain. At number 24, the Toussaint Knight's tourney armor is more or less identical with the previous one, but now featuring a darker finish and a red Gambesson. Having shed its golden exterior, I find this to be a much more appropriate piece of armor overall, because while certainly a bit more boring, it feels like something Geralt would actually wear, instead of a pumped up ceremonial piece. At the exact halfway point on this list, and this is when things start getting a bit tougher amongst the competition, we have reached number 23 and the Magdeira Cuirass. Traditionally, this piece of armor never really stood out to me much since there obviously are more unique ones, but at closer inspection, it actually turns out to be a thing of beauty. With its entirely black undercoat that reaches Geralt to his knees, it immediately offers a sophisticated look. But at closer inspection, the grey steel vambraces and breastplate make this much more heavily armored than you might think, especially considering the chainmail underneath. I'm also a big fan of the brown leather belts and the golden one that kind of hangs off the waist, and the triangle cut shirt on the shoulders, on top of the chainmail, really makes it feel like you're wearing more than one layer. And finally, the raised collar is also a nice touch. With number 22 comes the Bannard breastplate, a piece that serves in more ways than one. Featuring different shades of blue, whether on the chest or the arm, they go surprisingly well with the red and black and gold trim on the lower end of the Gambesson, and on the other arm for that matter. I love the black steel breastplate, its ornamented main belt, and what looks like regular colored steel on the bottom. The pauldrons are small but serviceable and even come across as realistic, and since the entire piece is rather tight-fitted, it complements Geralt in all kinds of ways, and can be nicely paired with a bunch of different gloves and greaves. At number 21, the Xidarian Cavalry Armor is one of my traditional favorites, not just because I usually acquire it shortly before entering Novigrad, which gives it a sense of good vibes, but also because it's just awesome to look at. Its brown coat gives it a certain length and personality, but its true beauty lies in combination with the heavy armor on top, namely the pauldrons and the circular metal chest piece. I think the green undershirt could perhaps have been white or black for added vibes, but I do like the little bag attached to the belt crossing the body, and combined makes this outfit feel like something a true adventurer would wear. At number 20, I give you the Impera Brigade Armor. A chrome version of the Nilfgaardian very heavy armor, it does indeed lack the black and gold, but I still find it to be a beautiful piece. Sure, it's rather bulky, it definitely doesn't do Geralt any favors and can feel a bit unwieldy, but the design is still stunning, with the majestic pauldrons providing good defense, the entirety of the body being protected, and the Witcher medallion resting comfortably on the clean steel surface. I wish perhaps the color didn't look so Renaissance priestly, which does lend it a somewhat goofy or holier-than-thou appearance, and for the crown, it kind of allows it to have a personality of its own, as different lighting and weather will change up how it looks to an extent. For number 19, the Toussaint Ducal Guard Officer's armor looks absolutely dashing, but it's very interesting on top of it. The leather open coat concept is like nothing we've seen before, crowned with its very own flower-like badge, and the heavy steel pauldrons on the side gives it that protective look. Unique indeed and professional feeling, it comes across as extremely versatile, but there is something about it that doesn't feel truly Witcher authentic, and the more modern and sleek military look of it all means that I rarely, if ever, actually use it. Now for the actual Nilfgaardian Guardsman armor at number 18, and even though its design is identical to the Imperial Brigade armor, it's the coloring which has this come out on top, but only by 2 spots. The black and gold finish is key here, giving it a darker, more royal and imperial feel, and overall just looks a lot more epic, for the lack of a better word. I just love the black steel, and the subtle but visible golden trims all over the armor provides a sense of texture and richness that the chrome version just doesn't offer. The brown leather belt on top is also a nice finishing touch here. But of course, the armor is still not the most flattering in terms of shape, and does feel a bit unwieldy for someone who does like twirling around his enemies. At number 17, we have the legendary Viper armor, a piece that looks nearly identical to the standard Warrior's leather jacket, but where the brown and silver finish has been replaced by black colors and a more snake-like armor pattern, thus the name Viper armor. There's little to say about the general shape here, as it is Geralt's own armor in most ways, and so it does look good and fits extremely well. The snakeskin pattern is beautiful in its own right, and the darker finish is appropriate, but compared to the more colorful and classic leather jacket, it doesn't feel quite as unique nor as beautiful, which is why it lands on spot 17. Finally returning to the Ofieri style of Jess, at number 16 we have the Ofieri scale armor. Blue rather than green now, the scale armor feels more royal than the tunic, and I love that it finally offers a bit more protection, which is why I think this finally feels more warrior-like than sorceressy. Still foreign lands feeling, you might not think that it blends into the traditional kingdoms of The Witcher, but I find that it does work alright in Toussaint especially, since the climate is more generous and the sun plenty so. The large blue vambraces is a beautiful touch, and all of it just makes me yearn for an accompanying hood for those windy desert nights. At spot number 15 awaits the Thyssen armor, an armor that resembles the Siderian cavalry armor in shape, but which sports different and in my opinion, better colors. The burgundy red and black with the gold trim just looks so sophisticated and juicy, and I love that the green undershirt has been replaced with a black one. The steel armor on top remains, and overall, it didn't take much honestly, but the Thyssen armor is simply gorgeous as it takes a tried and true design but elevates it to a whole new level. Another sibling, but this time related to the darker Magdera cuirass back at spot 23. Thing is, while I technically like the darker gambeson on the former, there's something entirely unique and gorgeous about the bronze breastplate and trim. It stands out among most armor since so few of them make use of this bronzed finish, which means that when you actually wear this thing, you're bound to feel the difference. Especially is this true in the sun, where the colors really get to pop. Number 13 now, we have the Temerian armor. Perhaps somewhat unlucky in Warfare, the armor is one of my early game favorites, mainly because it looks sturdy without feeling heavy, and it kind of resembles the Warrior's leather jacket in both design concept and in adhering to Geralt's body fit. I love the dark and varying blue colors and the brown pants and vambraces, and think it's just a damn good piece of an outfit when all is said and done. I just kinda wish it had some gameplay implications when worn around either Nilfgaardians or Redanians. At number 12, the Toussaint Ducal Guard Captain's armor is the superior version of the Guard Officer's version, but the only true difference here is the blackened leather and different pattern on the jacket's lapel. All in all, it remains a beautiful piece and a highly unique one, which is why it lands so high on this list, but its modern design, which could have been offset by perhaps a longer coat and more bells and whistles, ensures it doesn't reach even higher. Number 11, and so close to the top section, we have the Grandmaster Legendary Feline armor. This is a rather controversial one as its dark blue color stands out in most places while generally feeling a bit awkward. Perhaps all to the hood, which if nothing else is very special. But you know, in the right light, this armor is in fact something quite unique, and I think the blue main color goes really well with the brown leather surrounding it. The belts are unique too, and all in all, I think it does come across as a complex piece, and one that certainly isn't for everyone. What's cool though is that I think the piece is highly elevated when you put on Geralt's glasses, which does remove the hood, but also provides a certain sense of refinement and almost psychopathic killer vibes to the whole thing. Take it or leave it, but don't tell me the feline armor isn't something else, for better or worse. We have reached the top 10 pieces of armor on this list, which means everything to come is a piece of art no matter how you spin it. And first up at number 10 is the New Moon armor. The New Moon armor is kind of what the feline armor wish it was, because this stands out as almost cat-like in its sleekness and in its adherence to the night. There are no bells and whistles here, no intricate designs, just a black leather vest with a black gambeson underneath, on top of black pants if you have them. I think it fits in just right in the universe too, and even though again, it could have perhaps benefited from a longer skirt around the legs, this is one piece of armor you either won't forget, or which will disappear in the shadows of your mind. At number 9 is the Toussaint Knight's armor, which resembles the Tourney Knight's armor from way back when, but now truly all black, which makes it a lot cooler, almost to the point of looking positively Nazgul-y. I think the key here is that the dark finish tones down the eccentric pointy pauldrons and breastplate design to a point where they actually look semi-befitting of a Witcher, and overall now, it's just a beautiful piece of armor that also doubles as very good protection. A highly controversial one awaits at number 8, namely the Grandmaster Legendary Griffin armor. Now this is perhaps the piece that stands in most contrast to the New Moon armor, but that doesn't mean it's any worse. In fact, when you actually wear this thing and don't got a bitch in your ear telling you it sucks, it's legendary. Grandmaster Legendary even. Every color here, from the muted dark green, to the muted gold, to the muted blue, it's also tasteful and refined. The griffin faces on the pauldrons and the cauldrons, I mean over the knees, are cool and unique, and the many feathery symbols here, whether down the breastplate or on various parts of the armor, paired with the chainmail underneath and the chain hood on the back, makes for something you've never seen before. It even looks like something a Grandmaster Witcher would wear, even though the White Wolf would perhaps not wear it for all occasions. Nevertheless, a highly unique and beautiful armor set that stands out completely, and mostly in the right ways too. At lucky number 7, we finally find the Redanian Halberdier armor. This is a very special one to me, as it's one of the only armors out there with the extended coat that goes all the way down to the shins. It does sport a similar style as the Sidarian and Tussan armors due to the same place on top and the accompanying bag, but it is this long red coat that really steals the show for me. As a lover of long coats, there's just nothing quite like it in the game for me, and as such, despite not being flashy or something out of this world, it ends up as one of the most memorable and cherished ones for me personally. At number 6, the Nilfgaardian armor is one of my absolute favorites. Once I get to use this one at level 10, usually right before journeying to Novigrad or something, I feel like I'm set for a good long while. Contrary to the Nilfgaardian Guardsman armor, this Nilfgaardian armor is almost like wearing a suit that's meant to be a suit, but one that's appropriate for the time. Its black leather finish looks rich in nature, the white undergarment does too, and I love the design of the arms where black gives way to white and vice versa. It just looks so clean. What tops it off is the black and gold steel on both the elbows and the knees, and the brown leather on the gloves and legs completes the sophisticated, rich imperial look. At number 5, we have the legendary Manticore armor. Not too different to the Nilfgaardian armor in style and vibe honestly, we maintain that rich and sophisticated feeling, but this time with a tad more summery and Toussaint-like vibe. I love the combination of black and brown leather all over the chest area in particular, and the white shirt on the side gives it all a somewhat more relaxed appearance, almost like we have combined the Nilfgaardian armor with the legendary shirt. Look at those classic boots as well, and those full leather gloves. Honestly, it doesn't get much better, until it does, when you see that it looks a lot more witchery with the potion pockets and pouch mounted on the chest. A beautiful piece to be sure, and deserving of a spot among the top 5. At number 4, I give you the Ravix of Four Horns armor, a piece that is reminiscent of the Toussaint tourney armors, but whose overcoat provides it with a radically different and much more beautiful look. The steel on the greaves and arms speak for themselves as usual, but look at this gorgeous centerpiece, the checkered gold and blue, and with the medieval coat of arms shield smack down in the middle. To me, this is beauty, and despite having technically already been on the list several times in terms of general overall look, this is by far the best iteration of this armor exactly because of this colorful and rich looking centerpiece. We are in the top 3, ladies and gentlemen, and at number 3 for the bronze medal, we have the classic, the tried and true, the only Warrior's leather jacket. This is the canon outfit for Geralt, and there is but one word for this one: beautiful. Sorry about that. With its focus on brown coloring across the leather and cloth, on the chainmail which dons the stomach area, or those out of this world gorgeous pauldrons, or on the navy chest piece with belts going here and there, finally centering on the Witcher medallion in the middle, this piece is an original Geralt for a reason. A good reason, mind you. It's a suit of armor you can wear the entire game through and never feel like you're missing out, since when it comes down to it, this is the Warrior's leather jacket. At number 2 and the silver medal for second best Witcher 3 armor of all time, we have the Grandmaster Legendary Wolven armor, but with a big caveat, which does make this one controversial. You see, this Wolven armor is stunning, especially on its upper section, but what I love about it is that it's so similar in concept to the Warrior's leather jacket. It's not too much, doesn't come across as too heavy, but strikes that great balance between light and heavy, a sort of medium type armor if you will. Now, it does look great as is and the red color scheme isn't inherently bad, but I wouldn't have put it at number 2 if I couldn't dye it brown, which is where this piece truly shines. Because now, we have a beautifully brown touch to the gambeson underneath, in my opinion allowing its intricate and lightly studded design to truly pop. At the same time, these somewhat burgundy colored leather straps turn more neutral brown, giving it all a more uniform blended color. But what I find fascinating is that the chainmail itself takes on a more black finish, and the combination of intricate brown cloth and leather, intricate black steel chainmail, and on top of that, the refined silver plate protecting the chest, neck and shoulder area, makes for a truly stunning piece. One that somehow manages to top the Warrior's leather jacket because it unifies the simple with the slightly more intricate and flashy. Only Witcher gear can be dyed, by the way, which is why I'm allowing myself this option for this piece of armor. This is why when dyed brown, the Grandmaster Legendary Wolven armor takes the silver piece for second best armor of The Witcher 3. And finally, the gold medal and the spot of number 1 best looking Witcher 3 armor of all time goes to the Grandmaster Legendary Ursyn armor. Not only is it fairly unique in its design with its ultra long coat, but it continues to shine and impress no matter where you look. Starting at the bottom, the coat has a beautifully brown coloring scheme, but white studs and a square pattern makes everything look highly deliberate. The grey chainmail with trimmed gold rims completes it well, before we are briefly interrupted by varying brown leather belts in matching colors. While most of the plate armor can be found on the edges here, either as thick vambraces or upper arm guards, the chest piece this time is a brown leather piece that covers everything from one shoulder to the next, but with unique circular design pieces for purposes unknown. I'm also a massive fan of the fur surrounding the neck, which just screams that this is an armor best suited for cold climates, namely the vast realm of Skellig. Of course, it can be worn anywhere, and it certainly fits in Novigrad too. Entirely beautiful, I think what in the end wins me over is this long coat, which certainly lends it that superior touch for long journeys and dangerous combat situations. And that, my friends, was an exhaustive list of the 46 armors of The Witcher 3 from worst to best. If I have left out any armors, let me know in the comments. Now it's your turn to tell me, which are your favorite armors in the game, and do you mostly agree with me, or did I get it horribly wrong? Do let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!